Hey guys, just one quick thing before we get going. We've been kicking this idea around at the Dissecting the 80s HQ for a little while, and we're trying to get a little feedback from y'all. Are you guys interested in having a listener request month? We'd basically have you guys call into the request line, leave us a quick, like less than a minute of, hey, here's the movie you should watch, and your name and where you're calling from. Just, Bill from Florida or whatever. I'm going to put a tweet up about that. It's twitter.com/dissectomania, DISSECTAMANIA. I'll put it on all the social media channels, but just want to get some feedback. And, ideally, you'll vote just so I don't have that sad person on social media with nobody responding to his tweet. Just sad, lonely, no responses on my Twitter poll. But we'll try to get some feedback because I know we've gotten the odd requests from folks here and there, but if we did a formal thing, we were thinking about doing that this year. So let us know on social media if you think that is a good idea, if you would like to do that. Welcome to Dissecting the 80s. I am Trip Lano, one half of the Mega Podcasting Powers, and with me, as always, is a man who I hope will never be disassembled, the Macho Mandrew.
Andrew Lano.
We are finishing up Automaton with a movie that has been on our list for a long time, and more specifically, starring a man that is just been egregiously overlooked for this podcast, Steve Guttenberg. Every other week, we watch a piece of 1980s pop culture, a movie, a TV show, or something in between, and discuss all the weird, wild, wacky, and wonderful in it. This week is Short Circuit. So you know what that means.
We gotta go back. We gotta go dissect the 80s. It's your Johnny 5. Something's gotta be done about your Johnny 5.
When the mega powers explode.
I'm talking about the 80s. Oh, yeah.
Great Scott!
Cream of the crop. Oh, yeah.
Mega powers, yeah!
When this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're gonna see some serious shit.
And we'll just start with this. The Fisher-Stevens role in this movie is egregiously offensive. I think we're both on the same page for that.
Yeah, I didn't know who that was, or what the deal was.
So, I think we both agree, hey, it's really ridiculous that they cast a white guy and put him in brownface to play the Indian character in this movie. It's particularly ridiculous that that's a thing. But I don't want to spend an hour talking about that, and I guess that you don't also want to spend an hour talking about that?
No, plus I feel like he's turned himself around.
I mean, he actually, Aziz Ansari did a bit about this in, not a bit, he did an episode about, Indian portrayals on television and movies in Master of None. It's really good. I highly recommend it if you're interested in someone taking on this topic. But apparently after it came out, Fisher-Stevens got in touch with him and they had a long talk about it, and they had a nice conversation about the thing, which is cool. So
that is cool.
Yeah, so I'm not trying to throw Fisher-Stevens down a well or anything like that. I don't want to spend an hour talking.
He was in, because I didn't realize as I was watching this, I was like, I said this was someone's brown face. I don't know. Is that okay? I guess it's him. That's weird. But because in my head, I didn't realize he was doing brown face, I didn't realize I recognized him as an actor from the Super Mario Brothers movie.
Yes, it's bad. So we'll just do that right now. We both think it's dumb and bad that they had a white dude play the Indian character, and we're gonna make jokes about the movie anyway.
Yes.
The thing I'm most excited about this movie is that we're getting close to our 3-year anniversary. This episode comes out at the end of May. This is episode 71.
Yeah.
And it took us this long to get to Steve fucking Guttenberg on this podcast.
I don't know much about Steve Guttenberg. Other than that, I do not believe he is a robot scientist.
But he's been in he is in a lot of very famous 80s movies. I mean, you're talking Cocoon, you're talking the Police Academy franchise, of which there's 9 in the 80s or something ridiculous. He's just an 80s icon. And there's many movies of his that I've put on the list, and then we bumped it for something else. But I mean, he must have 25 credits between 1980 and 1989.
It's a lot. I'm trying to look at what I know of his.
But he's just one of those faces that's popped up all the time.
Okay. He was in The Tower of Terror and Casper's Spirited Beginning.
Yes.
That's what I know him from.
Yes. but also the Big Green.
Oh, the soccer movie,
He's
right?
the sheriff in the soccer movie, yes. So it is egregious that it took us to nearly our 3rd anniversary to get the Goot on the podcast. And we're very sorry, Steve. We hope you can forgive us. And yeah, we're glad that we finally did get you here because, you know, we're excited to have you. Also in this movie, welcome back, long time at this point, friend of the show, or regular on the show at this point practically, Ali Sheedy.
Yeah, with some awful hair.
Sure is bad. Sure is bad.
Looks like a brown football helmet.
So yeah, let's get into Short Circuit.
It had a cool title font, which because we just discussed title fonts last episode, I was like, "Oh look, they actually did a cool font for this robot movie."
Yeah, they didn't follow your rules. They went rogue.
I know.
I really liked the fact that this is now the 3rd time we've done a robot movie, if we include Chopping Mall on the list.
Yeah,
and
I would.
They all start with like a military robot doing some sort of explosions of something or other. Like we were really concerned about military robots.
Yeah, I guess in the 80s that was the biggest concern, was like robot murder. They were like, if we build robots, they're gonna kill us.
Watch out, son! I've got military robots.
Yeah, basically that's the future liberals wanted.
So we get robots blowing stuff up, and then in another repeat from our last robot movie, we go right to robots serving drinks, and the robots mixing up a cocktail.
Yeah, which is sort of the future that we're in. Like there are robot bartenders on cruise ships and stuff.
Yeah, I mean there's robot. I mean, not to get to like the. I will quickly come off this soapbox, but like robots are coming. Yeah, but like it's 2017. Robots are coming to take a lot of jobs. Like they're going to be bartenders, they're going to be truck drivers, they're going to be doing a lot of stuff. So like automation is going to fuck us up pretty soon here, as far as I'm aware from reading about this stuff. So like I like the fact that now we don't do any like, oh my god, robots are the devil movies. But when we first had robots, people were very afraid of it. I think it honestly is, at least to some level, a reflection of a legitimate fear people had of robots in the early days of robotics, you know, becoming what we think of as robotics.
Yeah. Well, even like if you look at what robots were, like what was considered robots in like reality and science fiction as two separate entities in the 80s versus what it is now, it's so different. Like it's completely different. Basically what they thought of as science fiction in the 80s is reality now.
Yeah, a lot of it.
It's crazy.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, some of that too is the people that design those things are fans of these things.
Well, yeah.
Like a lot of that, like they talk about a lot with like how early cell phones look like Star Trek communicators, and a lot of early cell phone designers are like, "Yeah, I really like Star Trek." Like, of course, I did that. Yeah, I like Star Trek. So I mean, it makes sense. Your science fiction stuff is ideally suited towards the men and women who went into those fields. So of course, like they, you know, reflect that in some way. The other thing is, while we're talking about this at the top of the movie, this movie is directed by the same gentleman who directed like a whole bunch of stuff that we know and or, you know, maybe love is in air quotes here. He's also, in addition to the director of War Games, the brother of the actress who played Scout in To Kill a Mockingbird.
Oh.
And the writer pair of this film are, and I hope, are you buckled in, because this is a doozy.
Okay.
Tremors 1 through 4.
Are there more than that?
Yes, there's a 5th one that came out. It's on Netflix right now. I haven't watched it yet though. Batteries Not Included.
Do I know
which
that
is
one?
another movie we considered that for our Robot Month.
Hey,
May
happens every year.
It does. Wild Wild West.
Okay, can we
Jim West,
can we
Desperado.
discuss Wild West real quick?
Real quick, because I have like you're cutting me off before the big.
Fine,
big
we'll get back to Pinky Wild Wild West.
Ghost Dad.
Oh, have you ever watched Ghost Dad?
I have, but you've referenced Ghost Dad like a lot in the last 6 months of episodes, and so I thought you would appreciate that.
I mean, I shouldn't because he's a monster, but yeah. Oh God.
Okay,
movie.
like go to your Wild Wild West point.
That is a movie that, like, I remember, like, when I think of the memory, I'm like, I enjoyed that movie as a kid, but looking back, I shouldn't have liked it. And then I
Well,
went back.
you were 7.
Yeah, but I mean, like, looking back, I'm like, oh, that's not going to be good. And then I went back and rewatched it. It's not good, but it is better than I would have thought it was going to be.
I am very frightened. Have you recently had like a head injury?
No. Okay, I'm not. Like I said, it's not good.
'Cause, like-
it's still not a good movie. But like in my in my memory of what that movie looked like, I was like, oh god, that's going to be a steaming pile of garbage. And I was like, it's not good at all, but it is not as awful as I thought it was going to be in rewatching it.
Interesting. The last time I saw like 15 minutes of it on TV, I was like, whoa, this is significantly worse than I remember.
Basically, I'm a sucker for a strong world, like visual world.
Sure.
And it is a very striking, the world is well crafted. Like, you know where you are and when you are and what the rules are. And I appreciate that in terms of visuals.
I'm going to say this only because I like antagonizing groups of people. Obviously, it's the genesis of steampunk as a thing. Like, you know, it's the first ever encounter that anyone ever had with gadgetry being overly complicated for no reason. And so, for that reason alone...
It's probably the general, like, populace's introduction to steampunk.
Oh, for sure. Anyway, obviously, as we've been sidetracked for now 15 minutes or so of this podcast, we are perhaps not the biggest fans of Short Circuit. I was surprised by how bored I was watching this, but
that's the problem. It's not that I aggressively disliked it. It's just
Yeah.
boring.
Yeah. Peeling back the curtain a little bit here, the thing that I find doing this show is that there's a certain level of movie that I'll be really excited for, and like I'll be honest with you, I was really excited to do Short Circuit because I remember watching this movie as a kid.
You were amped.
I was. I remember watching this as a kid, and I remember specifically watching it with Dad because he will even now sometimes, just like if something makes him think of it, do that Johnny Five is alive in the dumb robot voice, and like it's not often.
I've never heard him do that. Am I crazy?
No, he's definitely done. He's definitely made reference to Johnny Five for sure. And I don't think it was like a movie that Dad liked. It wasn't like, you know, Weekend at Bernie's or something like that, where it's like actively he likes this movie. But for some reason, I remember maybe I just watched it a bunch and he was there for
Happened
that.
to be in the room.
Yeah, he was reading the paper and just like barely paying attention. But so I remember this movie and I remember liking this movie a lot. And then I was just so bored. And here's the crazy thing: the sequel is 10 minutes longer.
What?
Yes, and
What
the sequel
happens in
doesn't
the
have.
sequel?
I don't know, but they don't have the Goot in it, which is why I said we got to do the first one because
Is
we got to
Ali
get the
Sheedy
Goot on
in
the
it?
show. I don't remember, but in any case, so it was a bummer because I was like, this is gonna be so good for the show, like it's this cornball robot movie, and instead it just is like kind of boring, and boring is the worst thing that we can do with this podcast
Why did they bring Fisher Stevens' character back for the sequel?
because he would show up for the paycheck. I would guess. No disrespect to Fisher Stevens,
Ali Sheedy played Stephanie Speck in one. Her voice is in one uncredited scene in Short Circuit 2.
and it probably was like an unused take from the first movie kind of situation.
100%.
or they were like, look, can you just like call this number and leave this line on a voicemail? And she's like, all right, fine, just stop calling me. Like line, hang up. And that was it. So yeah, we're gonna get through this like we always do. But just I was bummed. Like this is a movie I was really jazzed about, and I Heartbeeps was more fun to watch, which is crazy. But
Right?
yeah, well, it's also a good 20 minutes shorter, which helps. So anyway, we got these military robots, and the military robots are serving drinks, and it's sort of this like, oh, what a wonderful world robots are going to give us kind of thing. And then, as we found out in our last 2 robot films, people just assumed thunderstorms are magic, I guess. Because
Did you see the poster for this movie?
I didn't.
It looks horrifying. Like, I thought this was a scary movie at first.
Really?
I didn't know what to expect because the title sequence also is a little menacing, to be quite honest.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It was surprisingly not as kid friendly as I expected.
I was like, this is weird.
This is another one of those movies where I genuinely don't know who the desired audience is, because this presumably would be for children, but the story is not nearly, like wacky hijinks enough to be for children to me.
It's also
kind of this
loosely about a woman falling in love with a robot.
Yeah, and also Steve Guttenberg a little bit. Wow, that is a weird poster.
I know.
Wow, this totally does look like a horror movie. So
It looks like
Johnny
a
Five.
that Stephen King horror movie, or it's like a miniseries.
Yeah. Oh man, the
Born
one
in
with the-
Sin, Come Right In. That one.
I keep wanting to say The Fog, but that's John Carpenter. No, it's Storm of the Century. So it's Johnny Five, like really far away though. He just kind of looks like a stick figure, like a human
Storm of the
stick
Century
figure
is
on a. He looks like a human stick figure standing on like a bluff overlooking the sea, and the clouds are menacing, and he's getting electrocuted or lightning bolted rather. And it says something wonderful has happened. Number 5 is alive, but it does. It totally like if you showed me that, I would totally think it was a horror movie. I could totally see that.
Yeah, I was like, okay, well, he's gonna be a murder robot, and this is another murder bot movie. Okay, cool, party.
Yeah. So there's an electric storm, a thunderstorm, and the robots get electrocuted, and they think like they go do a quick check, and they all seem fine, and then suddenly Johnny Five is missing. Well, he's not. Okay. The last line of this movie, he becomes Johnny Five. I'm calling him Johnny Five the whole time because that's what I remember him as being. So, hey, it's Johnny Five. I'm not going to call him Number 5 for an hour and then
I
change
probably
that.
will call him Number 5 for an hour because I don't have the connection to this film that you do.
Yeah, so it's Johnny Five for me. But he's missing, and they have to start this search party. And this is actually, I think, one of the coolest scenes in the movie tech-wise, because it's very 1980s future tech, and I really love a lot of this. And so they're looking at this big map, and why it would be flat on the... This is another thing, by the way.
I feel like this whole podcast is this is another thing.
Well, no, this is just a general thing. So I understand in like World War II era why you would have like a big flat map, like a table, and you would, like chart troop movements and stuff on it. But it always seemed odd to me that like once we went digital, there was ever a time where people were like, oh yeah, it'll be like a flat table we'll lean over instead of it being on the wall where everyone can see it and we can easily manipulate the data to show us what we want. It had that in War Games too a little bit, where there's like a table with an electronic map on it, and I'm always like, every time I see that in a movie, I'm like, why did anyone think that was the way it was going to be? I don't understand.
Well, I don't know. I'm okay with that because I thought the table reminded me of the Hunger Games because the Hunger Games also had that. It had more topography to it. It wasn't just flat. It was all like digital topography.
See, the Hunger Games is another example of one where it makes me like scratch my head a little bit. I would have been I didn't think of that one, but a perfect example of what I was talking about. But in any case, so they're looking for Johnny Five on this map, and they have this cool like wireframe animation of it like rolling around. They're like, oh, we found him over in these mountains, and it's like you can see a little fake 3D representation of Johnny Five like zip zap zopping around over there.
Yeah, I really the tech in this movie is pretty cool. Like the way they're like, we're triangulating his signal.
So they're tracking Johnny Five, and it cuts to where Johnny Five is, which is like a little house that is owned.
We don't know what she does in this movie.
I also realized, like, I don't know how old. Like, she is an adult.
How
in
old
this,
is
right?
her character supposed to be?
Okay,
was my
okay,
biggest
okay.
question.
Yeah, because I feel like this movie is pre-Breakfast Club.
Let me check that because
I mean, she's a young-looking person in general, so that obviously affects stuff like this. But I was very confused at how old Ali Sheedy was.
this is the year after the Breakfast Club.
Okay,
So she went from playing high school sophomore, junior to fully grown adult who had a bad relationship, who has like been alive long enough to have had a really serious bad relationship.
I mean, nothing is ever going to touch John Candy in Volunteers and then Summer Rental, where literally 1 week apart he played a college student and then a father of 3. So like nothing is ever going to be that insane to me. But yes, this is also pretty silly. Like, she's a very young looking person, and I don't quite understand how old she's supposed to be, because her boyfriend seems like he's in high school.
I didn't get high school, but I got not, because I was like, maybe she's supposed to be like 30-ish, and I was like, he feels like real immature, like small town dude. He also felt like he was from Alabama, but they lived in Washington.
Yeah, well, let's the boyfriend is a guy wearing a red trucker hat who like probably has some really uninformed opinions about free trade. Like, we don't get into it, but like if I was to describe him to you and let you know what kind of person he is, like he probably doesn't quite understand how free trade works, but thinks he does, and then has like very strong opinions about people who like do any job that isn't driving trucks.
That's a very nice way of getting to calling someone a supporter.
I didn't use that word. I didn't
know.
say that word.
And
I
you're
never even necessarily intimated that word. I just described what he was wearing and what I think that he thinks based on his actions in this movie towards Ali Sheedy and robots. That's all I'm saying.
Hey, he is someone who thinks that a woman should get a very small percentage of what he gets when he turns in the robot.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they will split it like, I don't know, say like 86-14 maybe, something like that. I don't know. Maybe she gets like 86% of half, and then he gets to have all the half plus some more. Maybe that's how he thinks it goes.
Well, in the movie, he says, "You get 5,000, I get 20,000 of the $25,000 reward." So I was given real.
That part.
I was given real
I
movie
missed that
facts.
part. Oh,
I was
wow.
given real movie facts.
I thought we were doing the bit still.
It was a double. It was double usage.
I didn't realize they put that part in the movie. Mm-hmm. Alrighty then. See, I wasn't even wrong. This movie also features, another friend of ours, G.W. Bailey, who we hung out with briefly in Mannequin, and is also from that show
Major Crimes, and The Closer.
That's the one. The Closer. That's the one.
Well, the Closer that became Major Crimes,
and also is the police chief in Police Academy. One day we'll get to those films. We'll just keep them in the future ether. But one day we'll come back to the Goot and G.W. Bailey, and we'll cross all these off. I also, as just a general aside about robot movies, since we're talking about them this month, and this is we've done a few at this point, I really love the robots are magic vibe in all these movies that we watched. Like, there's this sense in the movies that they're so futuristic that it's magical. Like, there's a quote that I'm going to really badly butcher here, but the gist of it being like, any sufficiently advanced technology is essentially magic to the people, when they first see it.
Oh, for sure. Computers are the same way. I mean, even today, computers in movies are kind of magic.
Yeah, but like, it's not even like, oh, they can do anything. It's sort of this like air of mystery and awe around the fact that they even exist. And I love that about them, where, there is a little bit of fear of the robots in all these movies and for different reasons, but there's also this kind of like mysticism about them, I guess, for lack of a better term. And I really kind of dig that like, robots are pretty mundane now, right? Like, robots build cars and robots. Yeah, I mean, they're everywhere in our lives, and it's just like a state of the world right now. But these movies are early enough to where it's like, hey, these things are amazing. Like, you know what I mean? There's this sense of awe and wonder about them that we don't have anymore. So it's kind of cool. Like, yes, it also translates into fear of robots in the movies, which is also interesting to talk about. But I kind of love the magic and awe around, like, oh my God, did you see that thing? It's a robot.
Yes.
Because then Johnny Five goes into Ali Sheedy's house, and she kind of like takes him in as a stray. And
she also thinks he's an alien and is like way too on board with this alien.
Okay, well, let's talk about that thing though, because
I think she's just lonely. I think if we were to put one word for her character, it would be lonely, and one word for Gutenberg, and it would be miscast.
Okay, there's a lot of things I want to talk about based on your comments there. So, 100% agreement on the lonely, because she has 42 pets, doesn't she?
She's got, I think she says, no, never mind. That's late. I was gonna say she says 40, but that's acres at the end. She has 1 million animals.
Yeah,
like farm animals.
Yeah,
cats, skunks, badgers, raccoons.
Right. It's just their whole house is full of various animals. So
she's like Grey Gardens, but scaled down.
It's like Roar, but way less dangerous. The safest Roar is what we're doing.
Yeah, basically.
But yeah, I mean, obviously I have an affection for the Goot, but he makes zero sense as the scientist inventor of the robot.
He makes about he in this movie and Ed Begley Jr. in She-Devil are the two biggest what? casting
Yes!
decisions.
Yes, because like I don't think he was necessarily a star at this point where they're like, oh, we got the Goot attached, like we're gonna make him a bunch of money. So I don't think it's that. Just like with Ed Begley, where like he was never like a star.
This movie had
like,
Meryl Streep in it.
Right.
What was he doing here?
Yeah, and frankly, for that matter, in 1980, whatever that was, Roseanne was a pretty big name. Yeah,
You had the
But,
two
like,
biggest lady stars ever, and you're like, sure, let's throw him in there.
Yeah, he's the love interest. Yeah, here's the thing. I think Steve Guttenberg is like plenty charming, and I think he makes like a great everyman type lead where he's just handsome enough to get away with the romantic story you're going to put in that movie, and just funny enough to carry the comedy scenes, and like not particularly wildly handsome or particularly wildly hilarious, but like a perfectly good everyman. Yeah, like he's a perfectly good lead of a movie. I think he doesn't necessarily like carry a movie, but he's perfectly good. But man, what the heck? Like, there's a line in this where he's like, I haven't been out of the office in 5 years. I haven't been to a bar. I haven't been to a date. And it's like, bullshit. Like,
Yeah,
bullshit.
I don't believe that for a second.
Look at you. Like, of course you've been out. Of course you have.
Of course, you know what a woman is. Like, dude.
Yeah, there's a bunch of scenes where he and Fisher Stevens are like trying to understand women in like nerd techno speak, and it's just like Steve Guttenberg saying these lines about coding and stuff sounds ridiculous.
It feels like they put a pair of glasses on Chris Hemsworth, and they were like,
Yes.
he's a nerd now, shut up about it. Yeah, that's how most auditions work. It'll be like a couple like actual nerds, and then a bunch of these like rippling hunky dudes will like pull a pair of 3D glasses out of their backpack, pop out the frames, and put them on. It just doesn't make sense. But yeah, I just looking at him and I'm like, I get like maybe party goofball, like
Party Goofball is exactly Steve
like
Guttenberg.
if he had been the assistant, the like sidekick character, the Stephen Fisher character, nope, Fisher Stevens character,
Yep.
the Fishers.
I mean, that's a logical flip to make in your brain. Steven Fisher sounds much more like a person than Fisher Stevens. Like
Yes.
that sounds much more like a name. But you're absolutely right. It should be Steve Guttenberg should be like the wackadoodle up neighbor of Ali Sheedy. Like she should not have a 40-acre house, or if she does, she has like a roommate, and he's like the slobby roommate who's like eating cereal out of a pot because he doesn't want to wash a dish. Like.
Yeah.
Charming but slobby. That's what Steve Guttenberg should be playing.
Or I think he would be like the lab assistant who didn't invent the robots, but he's there and like knows a little bit.
Yeah.
Like
He
I can
is
get behind
very-
that, but I just don't believe that he invented these robots and has been fine tuning them.
Yeah, no, absolutely unbelievable. And it's not that I don't like him. It just doesn't make any damn sense. It is not as bad as Ed Begley, but it doesn't make any damn sense. Anyway, she takes Johnny Five in as like a stray, basically, because she thinks he's an alien. And we'll circle back to the whole alien robot thing in here in a second. But she like picks up a book to show him something, and then he like speed reads all of her encyclopedias. He reads the dictionary. He reads every book in her house, and that's what I was kind of talking about before with like robots or magic. The idea that you just hand him a book and he's like, and he just reads the whole thing like that is, I mean, I think it's fantastic.
I do too.
And then he like starts destroying her house. He yanks the tablecloth out from under the china, and then she's like, "Oh, thank God the china didn't break!" And he just like sweeps it off the table anyway, which is, I think, pretty magical.
Okay, we also forgot to mention that she like loves animals, has a bunch of animals. There's a scene when she's like heating up pasta sauce on the stove, and she like picks up the spoon, feeds a little to a badger, then she puts that same spoon in her mouth and puts it back in the thing. Then there's a tiny, tiny kitten, like maybe a month old, if that.
Yeah.
Walks across the stove to look into the pot, and she picks it up and puts it over there. There's another one about to do the same thing. She picks him up too. And then she walks away from that still on stove to go look out the window at what's happening to her truck. And then goes outside without turning off the stove and leaving the cats up there.
Well, she also at one point tries to put dry pasta into the pot of sauce. It's a very like, I don't think Ali Sheedy knows how to cook. Like, I'm not talking about
Well,
the
maybe
character.
she was doing like one pan pasta. I've
I'm
never
talking
done it
about,
because I
like-
don't trust it.
Yeah, well, it's just not how you cook pasta. I don't want to. We don't have to get into the cooking corner of this podcast, but like, please boil your pasta in water and stop watching tasty videos. But like, I'm talking about Ali Sheedy, the person, like maybe, or the director. Someone on this set doesn't know how to cook. Is what happened there. Like someone doesn't have any idea how cooking works, and everyone else was too afraid to say something.
I think they started the one-pan pasta trend.
Jim Tasty of Tasty Videos was like, "Wait, that's the ticket. Only hands and ingredients. That's all we want in our
Jim
videos."
Taste and Martin T.
No, it's I like it's one guy. Like I'm Jim Tasty.
I like when two people come together to make one, like, what, and it's already one
See,
word.
if you're gonna put two people together, it needs to be Jim Tasty and Alex Video.
Okay, I can get behind that.
But like yeah, just the idea of like, oh, we're just dumping pasta into this pot. I guess whatever. Go find a robot. I don't care. I'm gonna write Wild Wild West in like 20 years. It's gonna be a thing.
I think it's like 10 years. It's not even.
Wild Wild West is like 99.
This movie was 86.
Oh, okay. Anyway, so she has this a menagerie of animals, and then she goes out. She's got Johnny Five in there, and then they end up going to look at a sunset, which is a weird recurring theme from Heartbeeps.
Why do robots love sunsets?
I think that it's supposed to be
sunrise?
a metaphor.
I think
I
it
wrote
was
down sunset.
I think it's sunrise because he watched TV all through the night.
Oh, maybe that's it. But I think it's supposed to be, and stay with me here because we're going out into Silly Town, but just hang on. I think that the ability to appreciate the beauty of something like a sunrise or a sunset is uniquely human, and so like animals don't do that, right? Like animals don't sit and just watch the sunrise, and so I think it's like movie shorthand for the robot having humanity is its ability to do this thing that is distinctly human and also really easy to replicate without having to send the robot to a museum to like look at a painting or something.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, because sunsets are like this big. A lot of people use sunsets as a reason for like there being a higher power.
I mean, yeah. I mean, you can go to the religious aspect too, but I just think like from
Well, I just mean like the element of humanity of like, oh, this is something that is not. This is something we have to stop and like appreciate. Like they attach a meaning to it beyond like the sun, like the earth is turning.
Yeah, no, I think the religious aspect could absolutely be it, but I think on the base level of just it's shorthand for appreciating the beauty of the world around you in a way that's distinct and easy to do on film, because it's not like you could have Johnny Five, take a hike and really enjoy watching a bird.
I mean,
you know what I mean? Like right, but that would not necessarily translate to an audience of oh, Johnny Five is just listening to the rustle of the wind in the leaves, versus, oh, he literally watched the sun go down. I get what you're doing. I think that's
Johnny
what the point
Five is watching a plastic bag float in the wind.
It's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. Zzz. That's him zooming in on it.
I got it. I thought maybe
I just wanted to make sure that people out there in
I thought maybe it was a
Dissector
laser,
Land,
but then I realized
No.
it was a zoom.
He was zooming in. He wanted a closer look. But so she finds out, oh, you're a robot, you're not an alien, and then she turns on him, and I was like,
you didn't know that was a robot, bitch?
Yeah, okay, thank you. Like, I know they're
bitch,
new.
really?
I know they're new. I know we don't all just, like, know what robots are in 1985, but this doesn't look like a flesh creature.
Yeah, I wouldn't. My first thought when I saw that would not be, oh, you're an alien. It would be, you're a robot.
And also, not for nothing, this movie is like after Star Wars and Empire have come out. So, like, you've seen one of those. Like, clearly.
Yeah, they exist in your world.
Yeah.
Like, this is not an E.T.
No, but it wants to be. That's a really good point. This movie wants to be E.T. in the worst way, and it doesn't have any of that charm.
Well, he even has a lot of E.T.'s proportions.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
If you look at him, he's very bottom heavy, and his head is wide and skinny.
Yeah, yeah. Also, this is a very weird thing I'm about to say, so I apologize.
This is going to be the weird thing you say?
This is the weirdest thing I've said on at least this episode of the podcast. So you know the scene in E.T. when E.T. gets sick and he looks like
dried poop?
particularly dried
Dog poop?
Yes, okay? Like, everybody thinks of that scene of E.T. and they're like, oh, the scene where E.T. looks like dried dog poop. I just recently read that dog food formulation has changed really significantly since the 80s, and it used to have dried bone meal, like ground bones in it, which is why dog turds turn white in the sun, because the bone meal had lots of white coloring in it. I mean, bones are white. And so the reason that dog turds turn white in the 80s is because they were literally eating bones all the time. And now, for whatever reason, I don't know if it's like a health thing or not. And I read this on the internet, so it could be totally bullshit. But I have seen dog poop lately, and it's not white anymore. And I never like had the conscious thought of like, hey, dog turds aren't white anymore, because I don't have a dog. I'm allergic to everything. And so I read that, and I was like, holy shit, dog turds aren't white anymore. And that's a thing that I've noticed. And so that apparently is why. So I wonder if you show a child now that's the ET, I wonder what they would, because like everybody of our age and below is like, the scene where ET looks, dog poop ET, and like kids just don't have that thing anymore. And it was just like, I really wonder what kids say.
That is crazy.
Yeah. So I told you it was the weirdest thing I was going to say on this episode. It's pretty weird. It's pretty weird.
Yeah.
Okay. We are 42 minutes into this recording. We have gotten like 20 minutes into this movie, and we've had 65 tangents.
It's more of this episode's more of a stream of consciousness.
So let's try to put the tracks down and get
There's
our asses
some more
on
irrational fear of robots that's not properly explained.
Well, we get to that scene right after the sunset is when Johnny Five gets his humanity in the movie. He's chasing a cricket and he's jumping like a cricket.
Oh yeah, he of Mice and Men's a cricket.
Yeah, he sure does. Lenny Five.
Yeah, Lenny Five.
he jumps on a cricket and squishes it, and then learns very quickly what it means to be alive, and he freaks out and struggles to process that, as you would imagine any being that attained consciousness in the last few hours probably would. So him learning death is sort of what sets this whole thing in motion. He wants to avoid being captured, because he knows if they capture him, they're going to disassemble him, and disassemble for Johnny is death.
Oh, we also didn't mention that he had a parachute inside of him for some reason.
Oh man, I totally glossed over that. Yeah, he jumps off a bridge, right?
Yeah, he gets knocked off a bridge, and he pulls a ripcord out of nowhere. And I was like,
you know what though? The movie does cover that. Now that you say it, I think of it, because earlier there's a talk with these military guys, and they say they're going to drop the robots out of airplanes under the cover of like a bombing, and then when the enemy like comes and pokes their heads out from the bombs, after they stop being blown up, the robots are going to come in and just massacre all of them. And he calls it Operation. He calls it Operation Gotcha Last, which is like the worst name for an operation. I cannot.
Gotcha Last?
Yeah, it's terrible. Yeah. So that's why he has a parachute. It does explain.
I wouldn't
why.
have thought those parachutes would be like part of their design. I would have thought they would be like just stuck on the back and like push him out.
I don't think you could like strap a robot into a human parachute, so I guess it has to be installed.
Yeah, although they have arms, so they could wear a backpack.
Right, but I think their ET body shape makes them ill-suited to wear. Like, I think they'd have to put that parachute at the right point of their body.
Off
that's exactly.
The arms go off and the body just plummets to the earth.
He falls 10,000 feet at terminal velocity and explodes on impact.
Crushes a human.
They said they cost $11 million a piece. I'm assuming they don't want that to happen.
Yeah.
Johnny Five is basically a flying car at that point.
He just crashes. Someone looks up and is like, not again. And he gets crushed into the earth.
See our Back to the Future 2 episode for more about flying cars.
If you wanted to get off of that exit, you should have thought about that.
It seems like your fault, buddy. So anyway, Johnny Five steals a truck?
He watches TV all night. And Ali Sheedy gives some great information that there's been studies that show that you lose IQ the more you watch TV. I mean, like, oh boy.
To be fair, you're talking about 1980s television, which is not 2017 television. He's not watching like The Handmaid's Tale and getting like a feminism refresher.
Okay.
He's watching like Three's Company.
Handmaid's Tale is Hulu.
I mean, Hulu is TV.
But it's not on TV. Like, that's not what he would have been watching.
All right, fine. He's not watching like The Wire or something like that.
That's not TV either. That's HBO.
Yes, it is. Oh, fuck you. Anyway, he's not watching like prestige programming. He's watching like Three's Company. It's like, shenanigans with Mr. whatever the hell his name was.
Oh, I don't even know. Urkel?
No. Three's Company is like John Ritter.
I thought you said Family Matters. I'm sorry.
Oh no, he's not. He's watching Three's Company. It's that guy Don Knotts. Is it Don Knotts?
John Ritter.
No, I know it's John Ritter, but there's a landlord on Three's Company, and he looks like Don Knotts. I don't know if it is. I've never watched Three's Company.
I haven't either.
I should have picked a different program to do this dumb joke with. I'm pulling the ripcord. We're getting out of here. Hopefully my arms don't fall off and I plummet to earth.
Ali Sheedy calls the robot company to be like, "Hey, I found your robot, and also I'm angry for no reason because I'm a hippie. What's the reward?" And they're like, "Well, we have tours at the factory."
Yeah.
And I was like, "No, this is when you negotiate hard, Ali Sheedy. This is where you're like, oh, really? Because I think I just saw it drive into the ocean. Bye."
Yeah. Bye.
It also jumps. This
robot
robot that
that's how he
has
squishes the
tank
cricket.
wheels can jump.
Well, not to defend Johnny Five again, but he is supposed to be like all terrain and able to manipulate stairs and stuff. So
they
it doesn't
say that, but those tank wheels definitely would probably preclude it from doing anything other than open terrain.
I mean, probably.
Like the jungle feels like the worst place for him, other than an urban street.
Yeah. I think Urban Street seems like
one Philadelphia
ideal Johnny
pothole
Five.
or Pennsylvania Turnpike pothole, and he is done.
All right. Well, assuming Johnny Five doesn't exist solely on the Pennsylvania Turnpike system, he seems like he'd do okay. So Fisher Stevens and the Goot are trying to find Johnny, and then they catch up to him as he grabs this truck and he flees, and then the Goot and Fisher Stevens track him down, and as they do, the military shows up and they just like open fire in the middle of this field and are like shooting bullets all over the place, which like we talk about this a lot in these movies, but it's insane how loosey-goosey they are with the bullets in this. Just like, whatever, we'll just open fire in this public place. It's totally fine.
Also, the military like fighting robot is not bulletproof.
No.
What?
Yeah, no, it doesn't make a lick of sense. It's not even partially bulletproof. It's not like they're like, oh, you got to shoot it in this part to get it disabled.
It's
and
no
the rest
bigger
of
than
it's
a
fine.
womp rat.
Yeah, exactly. There's no like secret hole you have to plaster some plywood over. It's just like, oh no, anywhere on it is vulnerable. It's okay.
They could have at least given a line like, "Oh, load us up with the like special blah 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 metal bullets. They're the only thing that can penetrate our like the impervious steel."
Yeah, that would have taken like a half a second of brain power.
I know, and I'm like, because these robots are now useless. Like, if they get shot up in enemy territory.
Wait, they're not underwater.
That's the. I know. I just misspoke.
They're regular robots. They're not anemone robots.
I think anemone robots would be great.
But he also does some cool stuff with his secret laser that he flips out of his shoulder. He just starts like laser beaming, blowing stuff up, and we get some very cool Star Wars explosions with sparks.
Oh, I love a spark. I love a spark explosion.
And it's especially cool that they do the idea of, which is why I think Star Wars must exist in this universe, because they do lasers create spark explosions, because Johnny Five has a laser, and when he blows stuff up, it's a spark explosion, which is why stuff in Star Wars blows up the way it does, because it's laser blow-ups. So Goot gets close enough, like throws his body in front of him in the middle of this firefight, and is like, "No, don't shoot number 5," and he like taps some buttons on the code and knocks him out.
It's another instance where like they say, "Oh, we shut down his power," but then the robot is able to move somehow still.
Yeah, the rules are not. We always talk about this, right? Like, and if you're gonna do a movie like this, you got to set up the rules, and then you got to follow the rules. And in this movie, they don't set up the rules, and they just do whatever they want at all times.
They kind of set up something that feels like it was a reference or a rule when anytime someone's like, number 5 is feeling things. Fisher Stevens and Steve Guttenberg are always like, they can't feel, they don't think, and then together they go, they just run programs. And I was like, is that a reference to something? Because I don't.
I think it's supposed to just establish their nerdy camaraderie, which would be awesome if it wasn't Steve Guttenberg. Like, I think you would get the point if it wasn't the Goots.
If it was any actor on The Big Bang Theory.
Yeah. Someone who looks like they've worn glasses and been stuffed into a locker at one point in their life, and not were the stuffer in locker people. Sorry, Goots.
I don't even think he did the stuffing. I think he'd be like the cool kid who'd be like, "Hey, leave him alone," and then like pull him out of the locker. I don't
think so?
I don't see him as a bully. I see him as like the cool kid.
I see Gutenberg as like the guy in the back who's like not doing anything about it, but also not participating.
He's just pumping his fist.
No, I think he's just like quietly observing and like feeling shame that he doesn't stand up for people. I'm putting a lot into this projection. Obviously,
you are projecting a lot onto Steve Guttenberg.
Yeah. I think he has bad friends that like he's 23 and he's like, man, I was friends with some assholes, and he sees the kid who got shoved in the locker in line at the grocery store when he comes back from college on his scholarship, and he's like, hey, Derek, hey, you know what, man? I'm sorry. Like I could have done more and I didn't, and that sucks. And Derek is like, yeah, it's all right, man. I really don't think about it anymore, but thanks. And then like Gutenberg goes home and feels like really good about himself, and Derek's like,
posts
God,
about
what
it on
an asshole.
Facebook. It's never too late to change who you are. Apologize for your ways. And
then
Derek goes home and is like, the fuck is this asshole doing?
And he gets the friend request from the Goots, and Derek's like, what the? No, fuck you, man.
We don't live in the same town anymore.
I got like a wife and kids. I got like a life now, man. Fuck you.
A wife and kids already.
Right,
oh my god.
Really weird. Hey, he got started young.
I like that he's like Steve Guttenberg's 23. He's reconnecting with someone from high school. That person already has a wife and multiple children.
Oh man, his dad owns the car. His dad had Derek's dad had the biggest car dealership in the town, so like he didn't have to go to college. His dad just like brought him in, and he'd been doing car sales
since he was shoved into a locker.
He was, but his dad is like pretty well off, and so he gets the first computer in town. Derek does, and then Derek shows his dad how to track inventory better, and he revolutionizes the car business. And then Derek becomes like the de facto owner of Smith Chrysler,
Jim Honda,
Dodge. Yeah,
he's Mark Carousel of Carousel Toyota.
Yeah, exactly,
which is a very small reference.
Yeah, 3 people are like, oh, I know that place.
I've heard that jingle.
Yeah, that's what I think happened. And so because he had all that money and didn't go to college, he just like, married a cheerleader or something. I don't know. I lost track of this fantasy like halfway through it. I super did. And
you were doing fine till you got to the Facebook request.
I was nailing it. I had a great fiction going, and then just a mess. Let's talk about this movie.
So he drives away in a van.
Yeah, let's get it.
And then he realizes. So the visual is he's driving his van, and then they like what?
I'm sorry, I'm laughing.
You're on your thing still.
Yeah,
you're still laughing about your bit.
Yeah, I'm still laughing about my own bit. Oh, I'm an asshole. Go ahead.
That's fine. It was a good bit. It just fell apart. It just lost steam. That's all.
It did. I needed help, and I didn't get it, and I just
you didn't
went
ask
with it.
for it. I would have.
No, I know. I
would have given some help there.
I was spinning, and I ran out of road, and that was it.
So he's driving his getaway van, and there's a small box, probably about the size of, I'd say like a box of birthday candles, and it's got a red switch on it and a green light. And he's driving the robotics van, and so he sees himself being tracked, and he's like, uh-oh, bad idea. And I was like, are you serious? He's going to be able to just turn off? Like, why is it an external device that you can turn off?
Yeah, really. If you're going to put a tracking device in the robot, put it in the fucking robot.
And instead, he just pulls the entire box off his body and throws it into the truck of an old couple, who I think have the best line in the film.
Oh, they totally do. I wrote that down also.
So, military man, guy from Major Crimes, is driving and trying to, like, all of a sudden the old couple stops, and it's military man and his whole wall of soldiers aiming their gun at their car, and like, uh-oh. and one of them starts to walk over, and the old lady turns to the old man and says, "I hope you took the grass out of the glove compartment." And I was like, OMG.
Yes. For one, it's a perfectly cast grandparent couple.
Yeah.
Like, perfectly. And two, it's in Washington State, which is like full of hippies. So it's totally believable that the old folks there, like, they've legalized weed. Of course, the old people there in the 80s were smoking. Like, that's
Of
amazing.
course. But also, like, you're a white couple. You'll be fine.
Yeah, no, it is true. So Johnny Five then peeps on Ali Sheedy.
Well, first we have to go. They go back to they show the military man talking to Steve Guttenberg and Brownface, and he says, "Do you have kids?" Because Steve Guttenberg is like, "Why do you hate this robot so much?" And I was like, "Thank you. This is the question I want answered."
Yes,
And he's
absolutely.
He's like, "Do you have kids?" And Steve Guttenberg says no, and he goes, "I do. 3 little scroters running around." And I was like, "Did he just call his children scroters?" Scrotum.
Yeah, I didn't get what that was supposed to mean.
His name is Scroter.
Oh,
I didn't realize that until they said it a second later, because I was like, that is the most disgusting way to refer to your children.
Yep, yeah, sure is.
Because later, Fisher calls him Scrotum, and he's like, it's Scroter.
Yeah.
So then, what's his face? Oh, Ali Sheedy's briefly on TV, and they're interviewing her, being like, there's a $25,000 reward. Do you know where the robot is? And she's like, no. And then she gets in the bath, and Johnny Five comes in holding a branch in front of his face like a disguise again.
Which is weirdly a thing that was also in Heartbeeps.
Yeah, I was like, what is up with these robots hiding behind plants?
But it's so weird how much like very odd specific details are repeated between the two movies. Like the lightning thing, the hiding in a bush thing. Like it's very odd the specifics that are repeated. But then they decide to basically have a rescue mission for him. Like Goots and Fisher Stevens are like, you know what? He deserves to be free because he's sentient. And so they decide to like go save him. And meanwhile, Johnny Five is dancing with Ali Sheedy in the living room.
It is the weirdest robot human courtship scene ever.
It's slightly better than the scene where I thought we were going to have to watch Robot Bernadette Peters, Ro Bernadette, and Ro Andy Kaufman get down to Ro business. I was like, I don't want to watch Ali Sheedy get down with the robot, but like I would rather watch that than the weird other scene I was going to get in Heartbeeps.
It's because in Heartbeeps they look like humans, so them having human parts
was way more likely.
And I was like, I don't know what's going to happen if she tries to bone this robot that looks like, I don't know, a Happy Meal toy mixed with an alien from Alien.
Mom, turn this down and count to 10. All right, I'm gonna so just like you turn the volume all the way down and you count to 10 out loud, then you turn it back up. Johnny Five flips out a bunch of implements at one point, so like it's not impossible. He might have had the proper implement to really like rock Ali Sheedy's world or whatever. But yeah,
Swiss Army dildo.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Mom, you're safe now. You're safe. Yeah. So,
oh God, are they falling in love? Oh God,
and they totally are. They totally are falling in love. Yeah,
I hate it. I hate it.
Human robo love. And then this is also the part where Johnny Five takes everything literal.
Basically the scene where the fairies in Sleeping Beauty are trying to make a cake, and she's like, 2 eggs, fold in gently, and she puts 2 whole eggs in and tries to fold literally fold the batter like a t-shirt.
Yeah, he actually does that exact same thing, 2 eggs, and drops the whole eggs in. And then he like whips it with his implement and it sprays all over the kitchen. My favorite one though is the hash browns in the
I do love the hash
still in the
brown
box.
joke.
And he's like, for crispy, cook on one side, then turn over. And he turns the entire pan over and puts the cardboard box directly on the burner. And it's like, it's catching fire.
Yeah, that was amazing.
So as he's cooking this breakfast, the creepy boyfriend from earlier, who has the the red hat and the specific opinions on international trade agreements and on women, yes, bad opinions about women and international trade. He comes back and is like,
and robot rights.
And robot rights.
He thinks robots should be turned into the people who want to look for them.
Yes, and so that's why he's there. Like he's gonna try to get Johnny Five, and Then, like, Johnny Five runs away, and he grabs Ali Sheedy like he's going to kidnap her or hold her hostage. Like, I don't quite understand
He
his
was like,
move.
he said, "Who's gonna help me find him?" And I was like, "Why do you think she knows where he's going?"
Yeah, no.
Like, do you think they planned this? Like, look, in the event you have to run away. They didn't have this. They didn't have like their family escape plan.
Safe place to meet and how to get out of your
In
room.
the event that
and-
my abusive ex-boyfriend comes home, run to the tree in the neighbor's yard and meet there.
But I do like that he quickly disassembles the douchebag's car.
That was
and
amazing.
Then, yeah, so the car is like suddenly in pieces, and he's holding a little small piece of the engine. Looks like a rotor of some kind, and the guy starts shooting at him, and Johnny Five is blocking bullets, and he starts quoting first John Wayne with like a decent robot John Wayne impression, if I'm being honest, and then like a James Cagney like 30s gangster type guy. The only thing he doesn't do that I really wanted is I wanted him to fling the thing like a frisbee and knock the guy out.
Oh, that would have been cool.
Like, not kill him because it's a children's. I mean, realistically, that would have been dope. But like, it's a children's
Behead him?
movie. Like,
That's what he does. And Ali Sheedy's like, oh
Ali
god.
he like falls to his knees and he like slumps forward and he's just like spurting blood all over Ali Sheedy, and like his head lands in her hands and she just like screams and screams.
No, I want Ali Sheedy to like look up, and I want I want her to like catch a bloody disc and then look up and his head is still attached, and then he falls to his knees and then the head falls over. And then I want the last 30 minutes to be the darkest horror movie you can craft.
Johnny Five like on the run, killing things left and right.
Just
I'd
murdering
watch that.
everybody.
But
It takes an
basically, we
hour to
wanted-
get there, but it's a sweet last 40.
Basically, we wanted to be watching Chopping Mall. Is what we're trying to say.
We wanted if Hot Fuzz was Chopping Mall.
I wish I was watching Chopping Mall, is what I want to say. I wish that I was watching Chopping Mall.
And this is where
Yes.
I realized that Johnny Five defo feels like a Disney attraction.
Absolutely.
Like, he talks in his, like, super cute little robot voice, if you want to drop some of that in here.
Error. Grasshopper disassemble. Reassemble.
Huh?
Reassemble.
And then he'll go into his, like, movie quotes that sound like he's recorded things from watching TV and just plays them back. So it's like, wow, this is crazy. And then he's like, listen here, pilgrim. And I was like, this sounds like he should be a robot tour guide on the Great Movie Ride.
This town ain't big enough for the both of us.
Whoa, that was crazy close, guys.
He also I like so this is followed by a scene where he goes and sets a bunch of traps to catch his Three Stooges buddies, or he watched a bunch of Three Stooges, and so he sets traps to catch three other Johnny Five style robots, and then when he does catch them, he reprograms them into Larry, Moe, and Curly.
Somehow.
Yeah, well, he's a robot.
Okay, sure.
He's a sentient robot. I'm giving you a lot of free pass on hand waving because of that. It's a weird thing.
Is Johnny Five the beginning of the singularity?
Yeah. Ooh, I think he might be.
I think he might be. It's either him or Bernadette Peters and Andy Kaufman.
Wait. So Johnny Five leads to the T-100, which leads us to Skynet. It's all a shared universe.
I think you're missing the step between T-100 and Skynet, which is Bernadette Peters' bot.
No, Bernadette Peters is a different branch of the tree. She is the Westworld beginning.
Oh, God. Okay.
Yeah. So there's actually, not to be super nerdy, but there actually is a robot with tank treads in the Terminator movies. It's just not like a huge part of it. Do you remember the T2 3D thing in Universal?
Yes.
So Universal Studios in Florida has this Terminator 2 ride. In the video of that, they have these like tank. Well, yeah, but they have these like tank. You have these tank tread robots that squish they like crush human skulls and stuff.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
For a second, I thought you were talking about X19. Is that the robot from RoboCop?
Yeah, I don't know if that's the name exactly, but yes, that is. It does look like the robot from RoboCop as well. So they have like a weird showdown in a bar.
Yeah, so
With Ali Sheedy and the Goots.
somehow calls him Ed 209. Sorry, it was gonna bother me.
Okay, and 209 is one from RoboCop.
Ali Sheedy.
Ali Sheedy's in a bar with.
She
with Steve
calls the
Guttenberg.
robot company to say, I need to talk to Steve Guttenberg, but I'll only talk to Steve Guttenberg, so have him meet me here. And I was like, girl, in what universe did you think this was going to work?
Yeah, no, like you called the robot company. Obviously, they're not playing games.
They wouldn't give you money for turning it in of your own volition. Like, why did you think they were going to play fair?
Right. It's very stupid. So he, tries to convince her that it's all going to be okay, and then suddenly it turns out like everyone in the bar is in disguise and they're secretly
Yeah.
part of the thing.
It's like that college humor skit where everyone in the high school classroom was an undercover agent or someone writing a
Yes.
story.
Yes, yeah. It's like literally every patron turns around and pulls off a fake mustache and is like, "It was me the whole time, a robot man."
And then did you notice that the angry military man was also wearing a red hat in this scene?
Yeah, he was, which was the least surprising thing in the history of the universe.
Yep. Well, she also is like, if I tell you where he is, Steve Guttenberg, do you promise not to experiment on him? And I was like, well, he has to do that. That's kind of his job. Like, a robot he built gained sentience and like
yeah, there's like a lot of questions that need to be answered with relative speed here.
imagine if one of your animals just started talking to you one day and was like, you can't ask me any questions about how this happened. Like, no.
Yeah. Then leave, because if I can't know, I don't want to talk to you.
Yeah, you need to. I will shoot you in the head, and you will be
Yeah.
the last talking animal.
Yeah, it seems like the proper course of action, if you ask me. So Johnny Five escapes the bar and runs out to the truck
With Ali Sheedy.
with Ali Sheedy, and then in the truck is Guttenberg and Fisher Stevens, and he basically is like, he tells Fisher Stevens to take a hike, and then he makes the Goot drive, and so he's basically taking the Goot hostage. And they drive out to Vasquez Rocks outside Los Angeles,
Yeah, it was super cool.
which you will know if you've ever seen the episodes of Buffy where
She went to
goes
Africa.
Yeah, she goes to Africa. Pretty much any Star Trek with a red rock planet. It's also the basis of the drawing in The Lion King for Pride Rock.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, a little place outside LA that's used in a lot of movies, or used to be anyway. And so they like do a bunch of tests, like, do you have sentience? So Goot gives him a Rorschach test, and he first is like, it's red dye number 7, and this and this and this, and Steve Guttenberg's like, heh, told you. Then he turns his back and he's like, also it looks like a butterfly. And Goot whips around like, a what? Like eyes wide, mouth agape.
I'm like, that's what makes you think it's sentient?
Right.
The
idea
goddamn
that he
Rorschach
can look-
test that isn't real.
Yeah, like what the fuck? How that's the thing? Not him talking or making jokes or doing all this other shit. Like oh, he
let's do
identified a
quick
paint
rundown.
blob.
Let's do a checklist, Gutenberg. Did you program him to speak? Should he be able to speak in any way? No.
Should he be able to process things like breaking out of a bar, holding you hostage, and making you drive him somewhere? No, like that's obvious sentience, you dipstick.
So then they're in the truck, and then they're surrounded by the military. They're military, right?
Yeah, they're military.
And his boss that we haven't really talked about, but is the Santa Claus in Christmas with the Cranks.
Wow, that's a weird pull.
It's who he was. It's who he is. It's the only thing
I believe
recognize.
you. Yeah.
And he's like, you should have come back when you had the chance, Goots. Now I gotta take you in. And the military guy's like, I'll blow him up. He's like, stop that. Just shut up and go to your corner.
We don't need you to do that, okay? We have the situation under control.
It's fine.
Yeah.
And then, so as they're talking, the military guys sneak around the back of the van somehow, because it's a very open space. Like, there's not a lot to hide behind. So I don't know how Gutenberg and Ali Sheedy didn't notice these people.
Yeah. They're not very good at keeping watch.
No. So they get grabbed, and they're like being dragged away, and then all of a sudden, Johnny Five jumps out of the back of the truck and starts riding away on his wheels. And I was like, why didn't he just like hotwire the truck and drive it? Like, at that point, I would just drive it forward through the cars.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And
then the truck blows up. Yeah, absolutely. Just start cutting heads off. And then the truck blows up. And
No,
you're
he
like,
blows up. He jumped out the back of the truck and wheeled away, and then they shot him. They RoboCopped him.
Yes, they did. They blew him to bits.
And so Ali Sheedy is like weeping. And again, I'm like, did you want to bone this robot? Like, do you need to start saving for Westworld?
It sort of seems like that's what she wanted to do.
Can you imagine if she went to Westworld and they were like, which of these high-end, like, human-like models would you like? And she's like, I want one that looks nothing like a human and is very bottom-heavy and looks kind of like E.T. if you stripped off all the skin.
And they're like, well, you paid $40,000 a day. Like, we can make it
They're like,
happen. But, like...
Here, they're like, here, you can have 35 of that back, because...
Actually, no, the people at Westworld are like, we're a place exclusively dedicated to people boning robots, and you're making us uncomfortable. Here's your money back. Like, get out of here, you freak.
we monitor, clean, and repurpose sex robots. And I don't like what you just said. So
literally my whole job is to take penises and vaginas off sex robots and replace them with fresh ones so people can do gross stuff to them. And you've made me sick. I don't know if I'm going to sleep tonight. I'm horrified.
So they're driving back, and
I live in a
like,
Willy Wonka-esque fantasy world that is horrifying on every level, and you have ruined it for me.
I feel like if someone went to Westworld and was like, I want to bone Ed 209. Like, what?
I thought you were going to say Ed Begley Jr.
I want to spend $40,000 to have sex with Ed Begley Jr.
It's a Westworld like subset where it's just like every
Ed
person
World?
is Ed Begley Jr. Like you
Ed
walk
World?
into the brothel and it's like the bar, like it's Ed Begley Jr. playing piano, Ed Begley Jr. serving you drinks, Ed Begley Jr. comes and rubs your back and he's like, "Hey there, buddy, how you
And
doing?"
then I want one person with a hand fan and a full saloon skirt, and then they close the hand fan and it's Ed Begley Jr.
Ed Begley Jr. There's a bunch of people playing poker, and they all tip
all
their
Ed
hats
Begley.
up and look at the thing, and it's just 5 Ed Begley Jr.'s with poker chips in front of them.
All the playing cards are Ed Begley Jr.
It's Begley's all the way down. It's
That-
Begley's all the way down.
That painting of the dogs playing poker, it's all Ed Begley Jr. playing poker on the wall.
And all of the horses are Ed Begley Jr.'s on all fours.
Oh, yes!
No, it's 2 Ed Begleys in a horse costume.
The tumbleweed is just Ed Begley Jr. doing somersaults.
That's doing somersault. Somebody draw that, please. Can somebody please
Edworld.
draw me Westworld Saloon, but they're all Ed Begley Jr.'s?
I want that to be the most specific Google search.
Oh, man. Anyway, it turned out to be a switcheroo, and Johnny Five is not dead, and he, like, pops up in the back of the truck and is like, "What's up, buddies?"
What's up, bitches? And then they're like,
And it turns out Goot is actually... Allie and Goot are in love with each other. She wasn't trying to bone down with Johnny Five this whole time. Although,
Lies.
I still think
She
maybe...
was.
Yeah. And then Johnny Five names himself. He decides that he's going to be Johnny Five, not Number Five. And they live happily ever after, question mark?
on a 40-acre farm in... He didn't say Michigan, did he?
I don't know. I thought it was not there, but I don't remember
Montana.
where. Oh, okay.
So she's like, I'll have to bring all my animals. And he's like, well, how many do you have? And I was like, the answer is too many, Steve Gutenberg.
Are you familiar with Noah? Have you ever heard of the Ark?
Are you familiar with the San Diego Zoo?
So final thoughts?
It's not bad, but it's not good.
It honestly, it commits the worst sin of a movie, and that's being boring.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, Ali Sheedy is acting for the back row and, like, committing to this.
Yeah.
It's not enough to save it.
Yeah, it's just odd, and it's also I read the Wikipedia a little bit, and one of the guys was talking about the original script and how it was like a very different, like, sort of romantic story, and it was this kind of
Between
beautiful tale
between the robot and Ali Sheedy?
I don't know. He doesn't really specify, but he then talked. I assumed it was the humans, but who knows? But he also says basically that he thought Steve Gutenberg was horribly miscast, and I was like, well, that's accurate.
That makes 2 of us.
Yeah, 3.
That makes the world. That makes the world.
Yep. So let's do this real quick before we jump off for this episode. I know we're back to our normal too
Are
long
we
length,
gonna
but
FMK with robots?
we sure are. Yeah, we're gonna do Marry Fuck Kill with Heart Beeps, Chopping Mall, and Short Circuit. And I have a feeling we're gonna have the same answers as usual, but let's see.
Now we're saying watch once, watch forever, never watch again.
Yeah.
Okay. I would probably watch Heart Beeps once. I would watch Chopping Mall forever, and I would never watch this again.
That is the correct answer. Thank you for
it
playing.
is.
Yeah, that is the correct answer. If you want to watch a robot movie, put on Chopping Mall. It's 1,000 times more fun than this, and it will satisfy all of your robot action. And if you want to watch robots fall in love, I would tell you to watch Heart Beeps. Although I think that's not a thing I would like to do.
A weird thing.
No judgment. This is a judgment-free podcast.
That's fair.
But I personally think you'll get a lot more enjoyment out of the robots fighting each other to the death, or just massacring humans, basically. We'll give you the clue for our next episode in just a sec, but as always, we want to remind you some quick ways to get a hold of us. Don't forget, like we said at the top of the show, we will be trying to solicit, and just let us know if you're interested in a request month. We're thinking about maybe doing that for September. We've been kicking around a couple ideas. We don't have to do that, but if it's something people want to do, I'm open to that. I think both of us think that'd be a good time, and we love interacting with folks. So if you want to interact with us, get in touch. Facebook.com/dissectingthe80s. Instagram.com/dissectingthe80s, although that is our least frequented one because I am old and don't really understand how it works. And it's Twitter.com/dissectomania.
I like that Instagram you don't get, but Twitter you're all aboard.
Because it's words. I'm a writer.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. I get the appeal of watching the Oscars at the same time as everybody else and live tweeting jokes about it. I don't quite understand why other people want to look at pictures of other people's food, but that's okay. I'd like to take pictures
just
of food.
Sometimes it's butts.
Yeah,
Sometimes
food
it's
and
makeup.
butts. See, food and butts seems to be all I ever see on Instagram. It's just like, oh, what's on the Instagram feed? Oh, food and butts, and
makeup.
And no offense, it's not even usually good food. It's like people's Starbucks cups and stuff, and I just don't understand. Like, I just don't get it.
It's funny. I take a lot of pictures of my food, but I almost never post them.
Yeah. I did it when I was in Austin because Mom follows the account, and I didn't have to send her text messages as much if I did it on Instagram, and that sometimes was easier.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, but yeah, and also if you want to give us a call, it's 856-DISSECT, and I might accidentally pick up the phone. Who knows? Also, and this is the most important one, we love that you listen to our show. We love you, but we need you to do something for us, and it's very important that you do this. Take a minute and review the show. Ideally in iTunes, but wherever you listen to it. Take a minute, give us that rating. I'm not even going to tell you to give us 5 stars. If you think we're dumb idiots, give us 1 star. Just don't say anything hate speechy, and we'll read it on the air. So please take the time and do that. We would really, really appreciate it. That ends Automaton, and our first flick in June is going to be...
Coming up next is the Spirit sequel to Better Off Dead, One Crazy Summer.
That's right. We're kicking off summer a little early. It's not officially summer till June 20th, but it'll be after Memorial Day. And as far as I'm concerned, that's the start of summer. So we're going to kick off our summer programming with One Crazy Summer. Thank you all so very much for listening. We just crossed 10,000 downloads, which is pretty damn cool for 2 dudes making jokes about 80s movies. We really appreciate everybody out there listening to us. And as always, if you like the show, tell 2 friends. I have been Trip Lano.
And I will always be Andrew Lano.
Until next time.
Don't you forget about me.
Dissecting the 80s is a Chum Some of This production. Things we're gonna cut out in editing.
We gotta go back. We gotta go dissect the 80s. It's your Johnny 5. Since we gotta be done. It was like falling
Take
down
2.
a hill.
Doc Brown falling down a hill.
Doc Brown fell down a hill, and I like the words wouldn't stop.